episode of Centre Court, all thanks to Victoria Police Apply Now and TAC Ditch the Distractions. I'm Bianca Chatfield, and joining me this week and every week as always, Ash Brazill, you're in your team colours.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me back. Also, yeah, team colours, just thought, why not? Let's get behind Collingwood again.
And apologies, because my colours, I think I blend in with the background, but that's all okay. Let's talk about what was a huge round one. It was so great to have netball back on our TVs. What stood out for you?
For me, it was just getting netball back on the TV, but I think what stood out for me is the tall girls were actually taking the long shots. And yeah, for me, I loved that. I loved Janelle Fowler just putting up that 2-bomb, and when you get that, what else are you got? How are you going to stop her? She shoots 1, she shoots 2, she can hold, she can do anything. And yeah, I think that's what excited me the most.
And that's where I'm so glad that I'm not having to defend those shots anymore. We saw plenty of debutantes across all of the teams, which I think was great to see. But one particular teammate of yours, and that I played in the Diamonds with before too, we've seen April Brownlee step back out there on court 5 months after giving birth. She's now lining up for the Giants. What did you think when you saw her run out there?
Oh, I was just proud of her. Brooke and I chatted about it, and I just said to ask Brooke, do you think you'd be able to play netball right now? And she just looked at me and was like, are you kidding me? No way. And to see, I guess, April be out there, and her first, I think, minute, she got a touch to the ball. So, she's not out of place. I think she's playing really well, and I hope to see her on court more often.
And I think those rolling subs certainly do help the players who potentially aren't quite at their fittest just yet, and also to the inexperienced players, just to get them out there, to get them some experience on court. Now, Braz, it's time to get to the agenda. When you're on your phone, you are driving blind. Ditch the distractions. The first agenda item, I want to focus on a positive. We don't often talk about ACLs in a positive way, but we had 4 players returning to court who have now recovered from their ACL injuries. Kelsey Brown, we saw Maddie Brown back out there for the Magpies, we saw Mahalia Cassidy out there for the Firebirds, and then, of course, Captain Courageous Maddie Proud back out there for the New South Wales Swifts. Awesome to see.
Yeah, and I think we're also talking about COVID being a bad thing, but it's given these girls opportunities to get fit, get right, especially Kelsey Brown. I think she's someone that everyone put a question mark, will we see her? And she is just unbelievable. That girl, and I think being a teammate, seeing her in the gym, she said from day one, I'll be back in round 1. And I just thought, you're crazy. I don't think you're going to do it. And she's proven everyone wrong. She's come out, had a brilliant game. And yeah, to see her and Maddie on court for the first time together, I'm excited to see what the rest of the year is going to look like.
And one thing that I absolutely love seeing, and it was when Maddie Proud ran out onto court for the first time, and Jamie Lee Price from the Giants, she is tough as anything. She just went straight up to her and was like, right, you better be ready, because I'm ready to take you on.
Welcome back to court, Maddie. And yeah, another player that I think her team get around, so having her back on court I think is a great place for the Swifts to be in.
Definitely. I think the imports have really stood up this season, so far in round 1 anyway, not just on the court with their performance, but definitely what they've got to say. Take a listen to Joe Harton at halftime of their match.
Yes and no. I don't like the rule change personally, but we play what is, and I'm not minding putting up 2 points, so we'll see how we go.
Not mincing her words, not a fan of the super shot, but she is a player that I think would absolutely dominate, and does dominate in that space.
Yeah, give Jo a couple of weeks and I reckon she'll love it. She's a player that as soon as that rule came out, I was like, this is Jo Harton all over. If I was Jo Harton's teammates, I'd be up in light to premiership, just because she can put that long bomb up. But I actually think what she was talking about was she didn't like how the girls found out, and rightly so. They found out, I think, in the media before they even knew about it. So I think that's probably the disappointing thing. But Jo, give round 5, I reckon you'll love it.
One other thing that really did stand out was the tactical way the super shot is being played, or that last 5 minutes of the quarter. We saw the tall shooters often benched in those times. So we saw Romelda Aitken, we saw Caitlin Bassett just taken off in that last 5 minutes to bring players on that were going to take advantage of that super shot. Do you agree with that? Is that a great thing or a bad thing for the sport?
I think it's a good thing. I quite like seeing the younger players come on and show us what they've got. For me, Nia Allen, I said last week, watch out. And she came on, her first shot was a super shot. So, they're moments that I'm looking forward to. But I do think these players can put up long bombs. Like I said before, Janelle Fowler, she can shoot from anywhere. And I reckon that's just a challenge for Bass I think she can put them up, but will she have that opportunity?
Yeah, well, I think with the super shot, I've said it a few times this week after watching it on the weekend, the boundary of it is far too big. I think it's usually 1.4 metres from the edge of the circle in Fast 5. It's 1.9 metres in Super Netball. So I think we're being too nice to the shooters, and we're probably trying to encourage them a bit more to take that 2-point shot, but I don't know why it takes up half of the circle.
Classic defender response. Classic defender response, but I agree with you.
Were you surprised when you saw it? Because that was the first thing that stood out to me when the game came on Saturday at 1 o'clock. I was like, what is the circle so big for?
Yeah, and we've seen last year that girls can shoot from that far in. And I think, I listened to your podcast this week with Sherelle, and her comment on it saying that she thinks it's fine and we don't want to see shooters miss. Sherelle, I'm happy to see a shooter miss. If they can't shoot from that far out, then that's what it is. You even said, Bianca, you could shoot from that far. So I'm wanting these goal attacks to do the big long bomb from the circle edge, and let's just bring it back just a couple centimetres.
Yeah, I mean, of course I'm going to talk up that I could shoot from that far. I'm not sure how accurate I'd be, but I'd certainly give it a go.
I reckon we need to get a ring in here and see if we can do it.
Oh, why not? On a more serious note, I think another import who had something to say was Helen Housby, and she put out this tweet after their game, which from the Channel 9 coverage perspective was interrupted. She says it's been 322 days since they've been able to play. It was an average performance by them, but her main thing that she was disappointed about was the Channel 9 coverage was cut because of Daniel Andrews, the Premier of Victoria, was holding a press conference to let all Victorians, including you and I, know what was happening in our worlds and what stage 4 lockdown was going to look like for us. And it was actually hard for me to see that tweet initially, because for us here in Victoria, it's a pretty devastating time. It's really hard to go through what we're all going through right now. How did you find it?
Yeah, I found it a bit hard as well when I read it, and I had to read on because I was like, what are they talking about here? And it was the first time where I realised these girls in the hub, they're not actually thinking what are Victorians going through, and rightly so. They're there to do a job. All they're thinking about is training and playing and who they're coming up against next. So in Helen's eyes, that's what she's thinking about. But from someone in Victoria, I just think, there's bigger things going on in the world than sport at the moment. And we were here sitting, waiting, knowing that Daniel Andrews was going to have a press conference. So we were waiting. Unfortunately, it happened during the netball, but that gave me time and someone going through rehab to have a few hours before curfew kicked in to go to the club and actually get weights to continue my rehab in my spare bedroom. So these are the things that we're dealing with, trying not to get corona. And I just think, if other states actually saw that, which they did, I think it's a big wake-up call to be like, just don't get complacent.
Yeah.
And we don't want any other state to end up like Victoria, because it is scary, and the fact that we need permits to come in to do this show, it's a scary world we're living in at the moment. Yeah,
and we're just grateful the netball is being able to be played up in Queensland. That was the agenda. Ditch the distractions, TAC. It's now time to get to the nitty gritty. Thanks to Lexus of Berwick, experience amazing with us. Visit lexusofberwick.com.au. Now, Ash, this is my time, okay? This is my time where I bring up an issue or I bring up something that's really stood out for me over the weekend. And the thing that I want to talk about is it's not the super shot, surprise, surprise. That seemed to be what everyone was talking about all the time over the weekend. And yes, it's important. And yes, I found myself often getting distracted during the quarter and really focusing in on that last 5 minutes. But the rolling subs is the game changer for season 2020. 100% it's the rolling subs. And I think the teams that dominate the most this year, we'll see it more as the rounds play out, but the teams that are going to dominate the most are the coaches, I believe, within those teams that are going to play a little bit more strategically, use those rolling subs to their advantage, potentially put players in position. So, for example, maybe put Caitlin Thwaites out at goal attack for a little while, give her a rest, pull her off, put her back on at shooter, allow players to have a bit more flexibility with how they play the game, give them a little bit of rest when they need some rest. I think this is the game changer.
And being a Vixens player, did you actually think the Vixens played it well?
Well, I actually think they don't play it enough. If I was Simone, I'd probably play it more. But I think teams, like I enjoy how Rob Wright uses it, Magpies. He's a very different thinker, isn't he, as a coach? And I really do like how he explores his options. Yeah. But I liked how the Firebirds used it. I thought that was really clever at times. And I think that's what we're going to see more and more as the season plays out, is that coaches are going to use it more strategically. And that is really what we're going to be talking about by the end of the season. So well done on the rolling subs. I absolutely love it.
Big call.
Well, that was the Nitty Gritty, all thanks to Lexus of Berwick. Now, Ash, this is where I hand it over to you. Who is the Brazilliant recipient this week?
Well, B, this week I actually have 2 Brazilliant awards, and my first award goes to the New South Wales Swifts. They found out on Wednesday that they had to travel up to Queensland, and Thursday they were on a flight, and the whole team had matching face masks.
What? You actually tipped this last week because you said, if the game happens in Sydney, you knew something was going on.
I know, look how cute they look.
Oh.
But I texted Tage Hadley because I wanted to know who did it, because I'm like, that they're a creative bunch. One of them would have definitely made this face mask. But what she told me is that their strength and conditioning coach, Lucas, his mother made them for them. So
I love that so much.
Brilliant? So he's not just looking out for them in a strength and conditioning kind of thing. He is also making sure they do not get COVID on that flight. So well done to Lucas and his mum. And my second one, let's just watch this right now.
Playing the Vixens game number 36, Emily Mannix.
Partner Ari and her family. This is hilarious.
Now, what I love about this is I'm in shock with how many people they have in a house being in stage 4 lockdown. So that must have happened before the lockdown. But milestones, I just think they don't really get mentioned too much in our sport, and 50 games is actually a big number when you think about it, when we only have 14 games in a season.
Yes.
So congratulations to Emily Mannix and her family.
Well, I think Emily Mannix may expect every single week we're going to mention her, because so far she's featured on both of our shows. Keep it up, Em. I love what you're doing, and well done on 50 games. She was in the team when I was playing, and I haven't been playing for 5 years. So you just think it does take a long time to rack up 50 games. So congratulations to Emily Mannix, and get back to dancing because we need some more entertainment. Thank you. Okay, that was Brazilliant. It's now time to have a look at the weekend matches that we've got coming up. So we've got games on Saturday and Sunday. We know Giants are playing Thunderbirds first. Giants would be very annoyed that they couldn't get the win against the Swifts in such a tight game.
Yeah, and I think players that have stood up for the Giants is Amy Pimenta. She got 7 intercepts in the game.
Incredible.
So if she can have another game like that, I'm definitely tipping the Giants on this one.
And the Firebirds and Vixens are also the other Saturday game. Vixens had a good win, but the Firebirds, they really stood out to me. I didn't rate them very highly just off paper, but as soon as I saw them step out there on court, they are definitely a team to watch.
Oh, their first quarter, they came out to prove everyone wrong. And Gabby Simpson, what I loved about her is she talked about that if they didn't perform here, then what they went through last year meant nothing. So I love that from her.
And Gabby Simpson was awesome, wasn't she? Really stood up there for the defenders. Next game, Lightning are taking on the Magpies on Sunday. Can your Magpies girls take the Lightning on?
Yeah, I'm really impressed with how my girls played this week, especially not having a few players and having Shimona Nelson hopefully back this week. Fingers crossed she's back on court, because I think we can just kick the Lightning off, and it'll be the first time that we would have beaten them up in the sunny coast.
Actually, do you want to talk about Shimona Nelson? What was it that made her miss that game?
So she called up the coaching staff and let them know that her boyfriend, actually, one of his friends was diagnosed with coronavirus. He got tested and so did Shimona, both negative, but the club were extra cautious, and Shimona flew up after the team. And one thing that I think a lot of people don't know, she is isolated this whole 2 weeks by herself in an apartment. So she's been training by herself.
Oh, so she hasn't even been able to train with the team?
Not with the team, not with anyone. So I think being completely by yourself for those 2 weeks, I think it would have been hard on Shimona, but I've spoken to her and she is so positive, and the fact that she only missed 1 game, she's super excited to get back on court and just to be back with the team training. So she will be let out of that apartment tomorrow.
Oh, thank you for sharing that, because I think it's really important that we all understand the sacrifices the players are making, and especially one to do that without your teammates. That would be really tough.
And I think she'd be probably one of the only athletes that's done that so far, be by themselves solely for 2 weeks.
And then the final game is Swifts taking on Fever. Didn't I tell you Alice Teague-Nield was going to step up with this new super shot? It was great to see her get player of the match. Who do you think's going to win this one?
I'm calling a draw here.
What?
Yeah.
And no extra time allowed either?
I know, and you know, both teams really impressed me this week, so I'm hoping that it's going to be a close one, and I reckon a 2-point shot will make that draw.
Well, I can't wait for another weekend full of netball. It's time for the final say. Victoria Police are recruiting now. Search police careers and apply to be a force for good. Ash, I'm going to throw it to you first.
I'm all about the defenders this week, so
Woohoo!
I know we keep talking about the 2-point shot, but come on defenders, let's make something happen. I'm tipping that we will see some defenders just stand in the 2-point shot to force the 1-point shot.
I was thinking that about the tactics, and especially being a defender, how would you play it? What would you do to prevent that as a wing defence centre?
I'd probably drop back on that, and we are seeing the goal attacks, you know, take that shot. So
Yeah.
do you even double the goal attack on the centre pass and just wear them into the circle? Like, it's so many different things.
Yeah.
I don't know, I should get on the phone and ask Jiva what she's going to do this week. But what would you do?
Well, I think the same. I think you'd use the last 5 minutes to kind of drop into that middle channel and just make all the passes go wider and longer to at least try for an intercept. And if they go straight under the post to the tall shooter, then so be it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, 9 times out of 10, they're going to do that anyway. So, yeah, I would just be forcing the point. If you want it, take the 1-point shot, not the 2-pointer. But I think Lauren Moore from the Swifts and Gabby Simpson, I really enjoyed how they took on the game defensively, and no doubt there's going to be more defenders from here that we can keep an eye on. My final say, the player to watch for me after watching the Firebirds taking on the Lightning was Tippah Dwan. She has come on and leaps and bounds, and obviously with Gretel Buida was out of the game now, being pregnant, and the one thing that I loved so much was seeing Tippah out there for her first game, make her debut. She's so little compared to Romelda. She played with such confidence, and I love that Gretel was courtside cheering her on, standing up, just absolutely giving her all the energy she could.
Yeah, first shot, Gretel was up on 2 feet, arms in the air, like, and that's what you want to see, especially from a vice captain. So good on Gretel, and you know, good luck Firebirds.
Yeah.
They are actually looking like the team to beat at the moment.
Yeah, so keep an eye on Tippah. I think she's going to be a standout of this season. And that was the final say. Thanks to Victoria Police. Apply now. Thanks again for joining me, Ash.
Thanks, Fee. It's always a pleasure.
Enjoy stage 4 lockdown. Enjoy some more netball over the weekend. And that was another episode of Centre Court. Thanks to TAC. When you're on your phone, you're driving blind. Ditch the distractions. And Victoria Police, who are recruiting now. Search police careers and apply now to be a force for good. Enjoy the netty, and we'll see you next week.